In the first 6 months of 2024, the FDA received over 1,700 adverse event reports linked to a single pet food company, including 206 reported pet deaths. Owners describe bloody diarrhea, seizures, kidney failure, and animals vomiting blood. The FDA sent inspectors to the factory. They walked through the facility for 3 days, reviewed just 24 consumer complaints, 9 of which were from 2007, and collected 0 product samples. Meanwhile, the company publicly dismissed the entire crisis as an online rumor. They made that statement on January 15th. 4 days later, on January 19th, company executives sat down with the FDA to discuss the surge in complaints. We are going to expose the 2 corporations hiding behind your favorite pet food brands, reveal the ingredients they do not want you to understand, and show you exactly how to identify the only companies you should actually trust with your animal's life. If you have walked down a pet food aisle recently, you might believe you are looking at a competitive marketplace filled with dozens of independent brands. You see names like Iams, Royal Canin, Orijen, Fancy Feast, Merrick, and Purina Pro Plan. You assume these are different companies competing to build a better product for your dog or cat. That is an illusion. The reality is that 2 massive corporations control 61% of the entire American pet food market, an industry worth $64.4 billion a year. Mars Petcare and Nestlé Purina have spent the last 25 years buying up every independent competitor in sight, and they have replaced transparency with a business model that prioritizes brand illusion over everything else. When you buy a bag of Orijen, you are not buying from a small team of pet nutrition experts in Canada. You are buying from a subsidiary of Mars Incorporated, a privately held candy company whose founding family holds a net worth of over $140 billion. When you grab a bag of Merrick off the shelf, you are not supporting the artisan brand that was built in Hereford, Texas. You are putting money into Nestlé, the largest food corporation on the planet. These companies do not put their name on the front of the bag because the brand name is the product. The illusion of independence is the entire marketing strategy, but the ownership deception is only the beginning. What these corporations have done to the ingredients inside those bags is far worse. Here is how the consolidation happened. In 2001, Nestlé paid $10.3 billion to acquire Ralston Purina, instantly creating the largest pet food company in the United States. That single transaction gave the combined entity roughly 45% of the American cat food market. The Federal Trade Commission forced them to divest Meow Mix and Alley Cat to reduce the concentration, but it barely slowed the momentum. Over the next 2 decades, Nestlé kept acquiring. They purchased Merrick Pet Care in 2015, at the time one of the fastest-growing natural pet food brands in the country, generating roughly $300 million in annual revenue. They bought Zook's Natural Treats out of Durango, Colorado. They absorbed Castor and Pollux, the organic pet food line. Every time an independent brand built a loyal consumer following by doing things the right way, Nestlé wrote a check and brought them inside the machine. Mars was even more aggressive. They acquired Royal Canin for $1.3 billion in 2002. They bought Greenies, the dental treat brand, in 2006. They purchased Nutro Products, a company founded in 1926 that had been an independent standard bearer for decades. In 2014, Mars paid Procter & Gamble $2.9 billion in cash for Iams, Eukanuba, and Natra in a single deal. Then in February of 2023, Mars made the acquisition that stunned the pet food community. They bought Champion Pet Foods, the maker of Orijen and Akina, for roughly $2 billion. Orijen had built its entire reputation on being biologically appropriate and independently owned. Pet owners paid premium prices specifically because they believed they were supporting a company outside the corporate system. That independence vanished overnight. Today, Mars owns more than 50 pet food and treat brands. Nestlé Purina owns more than 25. Combined, they control over 80 brands that fill the same store aisle and create the appearance of competition where almost none exists. In economy dry dog food, their combined market share exceeds 72%. In economy wet cat food, Nestlé alone controls 76.4%. But the real scandal is not who owns the brands. It is what they are putting inside the bags. The most important distinction in pet food is one that most consumers have never heard of. It is the difference between human-grade and feed-grade ingredients. Human-grade means every single ingredient was stored, handled, processed, and transported in a USDA-inspected facility that meets the same sanitation and safety standards as your own food. Feed-grade means the ingredients were classified as inedible and unfit for human consumption. That includes meat from animals that were dead, dying, diseased, or disabled before they ever reached the slaughterhouse. The industry calls them 4D animals. The USDA condemns approximately 31 million pounds of animal material every year as unfit for people to eat. The FDA allows that exact same condemned material to enter the pet food supply chain. In April of 2019, the FDA's own Center for Veterinary Medicine director stated publicly that the agency does not believe using diseased animals in pet food poses a safety concern, and the American Journal of Veterinary Research found virtually no degradation of sodium pentobarbital, a euthanasia drug, during the standard rendering process. That means traces of the chemical used to put animals to sleep have been detected in finished dog food. Rendered ingredients make up 40 to 60% of most finished kibble. The rendering industry processes 25 million tons of animal byproducts every year, collected from butcher shops, supermarkets, restaurants, and fast food chains. And the labels are engineered to hide this reality. When you see the words, "Animal Digest" on a bag of cat food, that is the result of chemically dissolved organ tissue sprayed onto the kibble for flavor. The species does not even have to be identified on the label. A product only needs a trace amount of chicken digest to legally call itself chicken-flavored cat food, even when no actual chicken meat was added to the recipe. Then there is ingredient splitting. Instead of listing corn as the #1 ingredient by weight, manufacturers divide it into corn gluten meal, ground corn, and corn flour. Each fraction appears separately on the label, which pushes a protein source higher on the list and makes the formula look more meat-forward than it actually is. It is completely legal, and it is specifically designed to mislead you. You might assume the regulators would catch these practices, but the regulatory system is part of the architecture. The organization that sets pet food standards in America is called AAFCO, the Association of American Feed Control Officials. Most consumers assume it is a government enforcement agency. It is not. AAFCO's own website states plainly that it does not regulate, test, approve, or certify any pet food. It merely develops model language that individual states may choose to adopt, and the conflicts of interest are extraordinary. The same law firm, OFW Law, simultaneously represents AAFCO and the American Feed Industry Association, which is the pet food industry's own trade group. Employees from 3 universities that accept multi-million-dollar donations from pet food companies help write AAFCO ingredient definitions. And advisory committee members from Nestlé Purina, Hills, and Cargill sit on AAFCO committees that draft the rules their own companies must follow. After the 2007 melamine crisis, where contaminated ingredients from China killed thousands of pets and generated over 8,500 death reports to the FDA, Congress passed mandatory pet food safety provisions. Those laws required the FDA to establish ingredient standards, manufacturing protocols, and improved labeling within 2 years. But in 2018, those provisions were quietly deleted from federal law through an addendum to an unrelated bill before the FDA ever finished implementing them. The safety framework that Congress demanded after pets died in mass numbers was simply erased from the books. But here is where the story takes a turn that most people are not prepared for. Mars does not just sell pet food. Mars owns the veterinary clinics where your sick pet is treated. Through Banfield, VCA, Blue Pearl, Anicura, and Linnaeus, Mars operates roughly 3,000 veterinary hospitals worldwide. They employ over 12,000 veterinarians and handle 35 million pet visits every single year. That means Mars employs approximately 9% of all companion animal veterinarians in the United States. Mars also owns Antech Diagnostics and Heska Corporation, giving them control over one of the 2 largest veterinary diagnostic lab networks in the world. Consider what that means. The same corporation that manufactures the food also owns the hospitals that treat the health problems, operates the laboratories that process the blood work, and employs the veterinarians who recommend what you should feed your pet next. In November of 2024, United States Senators Elizabeth Warren and Richard Blumenthal sent a formal investigative letter to Mars CEO Paul Weyrauch. The letter documented complaints from veterinarians at Mars-owned clinics who reported being pressured to hit monthly quotas for specific procedures, corporate managers coaching staff on techniques for getting the client to a yes, and a system designed to function as a profit center rather than a healthcare provider. The senators specifically asked whether Mars incentivizes its employed veterinarians to recommend Mars-owned pet food brands. Veterinary care prices across the country have risen 60% since 2014, which is the exact period during which Mars completed its most aggressive wave of clinic acquisitions. The company that sells you Pedigree also owns the hospital where your dog ends up when something goes wrong, and the revenue cycle just keeps turning. So if the entire system is structured against you, does that mean you should give up on feeding your pet well? No. It means you have to stop shopping like a consumer and start thinking like an auditor. The first thing you need to do is learn who actually owns the brand on the bag. If it says Orijen, Acana, Iams, Royal Canin, Nutro, Greenies, Pedigree, Whiskas, Sheba, Caesar, or Temptations, that is Mars. If the bag says Purina Pro Plan, Fancy Feast, Friskies, Dog Chow, Beneful, Merrick, or Alpo, that is Nestlé. Print this list if you have to. Tape it to the inside of your pantry door. Once you know the parent company, you can make an informed decision about where your money goes. The second step is to seek out the genuinely independent brands that still exist. From Family Foods is a fifth-generation family-owned company that operates 3 manufacturing plants in Wisconsin with 0 outside investors. Weruva is family-owned and produces its food in a human-grade BRC-certified facility. Small Batch Pets runs its own production out of San Francisco and Oregon. These companies are not trying to dominate the aisle. They are small, they are focused, and they invest the margin into the ingredients instead of the marketing budget. But be careful, because many brands that look independent are actually backed by private equity firms. Stella & Chewy's, Nulo, Wellness, and even the Farmer's Dog all have institutional investors behind them. That does not automatically make them bad products, but it does mean there are shareholders expecting returns, and that financial pressure eventually flows downhill into the ingredient sourcing. The third step is to learn how to read a pet food label like a professional. AAF code naming rules determine how much of the name protein must actually be in the product. If the label says chicken cat food, the product must contain 95% chicken by weight. But if it says chicken dinner or chicken entree, that number plummets to just 25%. If it says with chicken, only 3% is required. And if it says chicken flavor, there does not need to be any actual chicken in the product at all, just enough digest to create a detectable taste. The difference between tuna cat food and cat food with tuna is 92 percentage points of real fish. Then look at the nutritional adequacy statement on the back. If it says animal feeding tests using AAFCO procedures substantiate that this product provides complete and balanced nutrition, that means the food was actually fed to live animals for 26 weeks with blood work monitoring. If it only says formulated to meet AAFCO nutrient profiles, that means the recipe was checked on paper and never fed to a real animal. That one sentence tells you more about the quality of the food than anything on the front of the bag. The era of trusting the brand name is over. Mars and Nestlé are counting on you to be distracted by the pictures of happy dogs and the words natural and premium printed in large letters so you never flip the bag over and check who actually made it. But if you know who owns the brand, if you understand the difference between human grade and feed grade, and if you are willing to support the small companies that still do things the right way, you can break the cycle. Do not let 2 corporations decide what your family's pet eats based on what maximizes their quarterly margins. Check the owner, check the ingredients, check the adequacy statement, and never underestimate the power of a 5th-generation family company that puts food quality ahead of shareholder returns. If you found this eye-opening, hit subscribe so you do not miss the next investigation.